This recording is copyright. In the IELTS test, you hear some recordings and you have to answer questions on them. You have time to read the instructions and questions and check your work. All recordings are played only once. The test is in 4 parts. Now look at part 1. You will hear a man phoning an internet provider. First, you have some time to look at questions 1 to 4. Now listen carefully and answer questions 1 to 4.
Hello, Global Internet. How may I help you?
Hello, I've just moved house and I want to get my internet set up.
OK, sir. Could I take your name, please?
Yes, it's James Sloan.
How do you spell Sloan?
It's Sloane.
OK, Mr. Sloan. What sort of package are you looking for?
I'm not sure, really.
OK, that's no problem. Well, if I can just start by
This recording is copyright. In the IELTS test, you hear some recordings and you have to answer questions on them. You have time to read the instructions and questions and check your work. All recordings are played only once. The test is in 4 parts. Now look at part 1. You will hear a man phoning an internet provider. First, you have some time to look at questions 1 to 4. Now listen carefully and answer questions 1 to 4.
Hello, Global Internet. How may I help you?
Hello, I've just moved house and I want to get my internet set up.
OK, sir. Could I take your name, please?
Yes, it's James Sloan.
How do you spell Sloan?
It's Sloane.
OK, Mr. Sloan. What sort of package are you looking for?
I'm not sure, really.
OK, that's no problem. Well, if I can just start by taking your address first.
OK, great. I live at 17 Melrose Drive.
Sorry, did you say 70?
No, sorry, 17.
OK. And the city and postcode?
Yes, the city is Exeter and the postcode is EX34 9QY.
OK, that's great. I'm just putting that into the computer now. OK. So you said you aren't sure what package you would like. Is that correct?
Yes, that's right.
OK. Well, I'll ask you a few questions that can help you choose the best package for you.
OK, that sounds great.
First, how many people will use the internet in your house?
Well, there's me and my wife and our 4-year-old daughter, but she's too young to use it.
So just 2 of you?
No, let's say 3. Our daughter might need to use it when she starts school next year.
OK. And which of the following things do you use the internet for? Downloading films and music?
No, never. Oh, but my wife sometimes does.
Before you hear the rest of the conversation, you have some time to look at questions 5 to 10. Now listen carefully and answer questions 5 to 10.
Okay, perfect. So I've put all that information into the system, and it suggested 3 possible packages.
Okay.
The first is our basic package. It costs £24 a month, and that gives you download speeds of up to 17 megabytes per second.
Oh, that's great.
However, there is a download limit of 10 gigabytes per month.
Okay, that's not much. I think I want more than 10 gigabytes a month. What about the next option?
That would be our standard package. It is a little bit more expensive. It's £30 a month. It's the same speed as the first package, but you would have unlimited downloads.
Oh, that's good. And the third?
The third is our premium package. You get super fast broadband of up to 40 megabytes a second, and that's for just £35 a month.
Wow, that is fast. But is there a limit?
I'm afraid so. It's 50 gigabytes a month. However, this option also comes with a free phone line, so you can make calls from your house.
50 gigabytes would definitely be enough. However, I don't really need a phone line. Also, I don't want to spend too much, so I think I'll go for the second option.
Excellent. Now, when is the best time for an engineer to come and install the router?
Well, I'm in most evenings after 6.
Oh, I'm afraid we can't do after 6. Our next free slot is Monday at 9 a.m. Would that be good for you?
No, sorry, I start work at 9. I could do Wednesday or Thursday at that time.
Oh, I'm sorry, sir. We don't have anything available then. How about an afternoon?
I'm busy every afternoon next week. I know, let's do the first one. I'll just book the morning off work.
Excellent. Monday at 9 it is then.
Okay, great.
The engineer that will be coming is called Jonathan Brown.
Great, I look forward to seeing him then.
Is there anything else I can help you with?
No, that's all, thanks.
Have a good day.
Bye.
That is the end of part 1. You now have some time to check your answers.
Oh my God.
Now look at part 2. You will hear a podcast on behalf of a company called Event Stars, which arranges staffing for music festivals. First, you have some time to look at questions 11 to 16. Now listen carefully and answer questions 11 to 16.
Hi, I'm Jody, manager of Event Stars, specializing in arranging temporary jobs at music festivals. Let me tell you a bit about myself. Before I founded Event Stars, I did various temporary jobs at festivals myself, and you won't be surprised to hear that I absolutely loved it. Provided I was able to earn enough to cover the cost of my ticket, I was happy. And that wasn't too hard. When I went to my very first festival, I remember feeling apprehensive about not knowing anyone. But I needn't have worried because I found myself surrounded by like-minded people. We immediately made a connection, which amazed me at the time. And I'm still mates today with lots of my festival companions from those early days, some of whom work alongside me in Event Stars. I started when I was 18, and while there were lots of other workers of a similar age to me, what I hadn't expected was that some of the other festival staff would be 4 times my age, but still as passionate as ever about the whole festival experience. So anyway, I set up Event Stars with the aim of finding temporary staff to work during festivals. We always need people, regardless of whether you're an experienced festival worker or a first-timer. There's always a desperate need for qualified medics, so do please apply if that's you. Basically, for all our staff, the work you do gets you into the festival site. Work for ticket, we call it. But I should say, please don't just treat it as an easy way to get in for free to watch your favorite bands, because there will be work to do, and time off on festival days is limited. Oh, and we're also on the lookout for people who are happy to be on the night shift, working into the early hours. If you're interested, you can apply via our website. Now, as for advice for someone who's considering working at festivals, I'd say make sure you genuinely want to do the work before you apply. And if you think it's not for you, then don't. A lot of people apply with a friend, which is understandable, but bear in mind that you might find yourselves working on different sites, especially at bigger festivals, so you may end up hardly seeing each other. And also, make sure you always do your research and find out in detail what the work entails and what's expected of you. It doesn't follow that just because you had a fantastic time at a particular festival as a ticket holder, you'd therefore enjoy it just as much if you were working.
Before you hear the rest of the podcast, you have some time to look at questions 17 to 20. Now listen carefully and answer questions 17 to 20.
The good news is we still have openings at various festivals, which I'd like to tell you about. Starting with Klezmerfest, we need people for our meet and greet team to welcome new arrivals to the festival and direct them to whichever of the camping zones they've got a ticket for and will be based in throughout the festival. And then, at Big Time, we still have vacancies for the site clear-up during the 3 days once the festival is over, with generous hourly rates of pay, as well as discarded tickets and food containers. Even things like tents get left behind, and it all needs to be disposed of. There's been a lot of interest in the brand new Blestival this year, as well as featuring comedy, celebrity chefs, and some great bands. One of Blestival's key aims is to raise funds for much-needed wildlife conservation projects in developing countries. And for this, we need staff to take donations from the festival goers. And the busiest times for this are when people are arriving at the start and leaving the site on the final day. And finally, we have a few openings at Smash, the celebration of rock music. The organizers have decided that there are now going to be at-the-gate ticket sales. And so we're looking for people for that, preferably with experience of handling contactless payments. Do please view our website and just follow the links if you'd like to apply. We're offering excellent working conditions, and believe me, the work is great fun.
That is the end of part 2. You now have some time to check your answers. Now look at part 3. You will hear 2 students of law talking about Magna Carta, a document that created several new laws during the reign of King John of England in the 13th century. First, you have some time to look at questions 21 to 25. Now listen carefully and answer questions 21 to 25.
Hey, Jess.
Oh, hello, Simon.
Today's lecture about Magna Carta was interesting. Did you already know about it?
Only from history at school, that the bishops and barons forced King John to accept their terms in a document called Magna Carta.
Yes, Latin for Great Charter.
The thing is, King John didn't have much negotiating power. He was really unpopular.
True, but that was because England had been in control of land in France, but the French managed to take it back.
Right, and I suppose ordinary people held John responsible.
Exactly. And then he wanted to raise taxes to pay for his wars.
So perhaps we should be looking at Magna Carta in the context of the wars between England and France. That was what had created this dispute between the king and the ruling class in England. And the whole point of Magna Carta was to put an end to that confrontation. Arguably, there ended up being some benefits for ordinary people, but achieving those wasn't a top priority.
Right. Yes, I'd done some reading before the lecture, so I wasn't surprised to hear that it was the aristocracy who had the most to gain from getting the king to agree to Magna Carta. But what I hadn't been aware of was that Magna Carta has had so much influence overseas.
Especially in the US.
Yeah, and the teacher said their constitution even borrows some exact wording from Magna Carta.
Yeah, it's interesting that after the original Magna Carta was sealed in the year 1215, it was then tweaked and reissued in 1216, then in 1225 and 1297. Just goes to show that Magna Carta was valued, I suppose as a way of placing legal restrictions on the authority of the king, not just under King John, but during the reigns of his successors too.
Yeah, John's gone down in history as being an awful king.
Do you think he was just unlucky for being king at a difficult time?
I don't buy that. You see, if you look at his predecessors...
Other kings in the 1100s, before he was crowned?
Yes, Henry I, King Stephen, King Richard I, all of them had to deal with revolts or uprisings of one sort or another during their reigns. So, in a way, the opposition John encountered wasn't much different from that. So, I don't think he was particularly unlucky.
Before you hear the rest of the discussion, you have some time to look at questions 26 to 30.
Chả nghe được gì luôn.
Now listen carefully and answer questions 26 to 30.
Shall we look at some of the actual clauses of Magna Carta?
OK, I like Clause 40. Says everyone has the right to justice.
A principle we take for granted these days. It's self-evident, hardly needs saying at all.
Maybe to us, but that wasn't the case 800 years ago.
Yeah, I guess.
There's a clause about marriage, isn't there?
Yes, Clause 8 says that a widow can't be forced into marriage against her will.
So it sort of acknowledges the principle that an individual has the right to determine what happens to them.
Exactly. Rather than having things imposed upon them and them having no say in the matter.
Right.
And what was the clause about fishing nets? Oh, yes, Clause 33 says nets can't be left in rivers. But to be honest, I'm struggling to see why that was a big issue.
Yes, I'm not sure about the point of that. Maybe so that rivers were kept unobstructed.
Your guess is as good as mine.
There was a clause about inheritance too, wasn't there? Clause 2.
Oh, that's the one that limited how much tax a person had to pay when they came into some land, like from a parent who died. But it's not the only one about inheritance. There are various others. For example, I think there's one guaranteeing that women and children can inherit property from their husbands and fathers.
I see. Oh, here's one I like. Clause 35 says that standard units of measurement needed to be used whether for corn or cloth or whatever was being sold.
Oh, yes, because originally every single town used to have their own measurements, which meant if you were buying something in another town, you'd have no idea how much you were getting, because you wouldn't be familiar with the units of measurement used. Must have been a nightmare.
I can imagine that would have happened all the time, at least until they passed the new law, which must have made trade fairer.
That is the end of part 3. You now have some time to check your answers.
Không hiểu. Số 3 nói ba tư ba ba mươi nói cái gì nhỉ? Không hiểu nó nói cái gì luôn.
Now look at part 4. You will hear part of an environmental science lecture about invasive species. In other words, plants or animals which are living away from their usual habitat, and which are causing harm in their new one. First, you have some time to look at questions 31 to 40.
Nào tới liền đi.
Now listen carefully and answer questions 31 to 40.
Right, so now I would like to focus on invasive species, which I'm defining as a plant or animal, which has become established outside of its usual range and is causing damage in its new location. I'm going to explain how many of these were spread by people, quite inadvertently, throughout the 19th century, probably without them having any notion at the time that their actions may turn out to be harmful. Throughout history, whenever migrants have headed off to make a new home, they've often taken food with them. And a good example of this is the rabbits, which were first transported to Australia by migrants from Britain, starting a new life in the Southern Hemisphere. In 1859, a farmer took a group of a dozen or so rabbits to a place called Barron Park, just east of Melbourne, and let them go. We can't know his reasoning, but within 50 years of this release, that same species of rabbits occupied much of the Australian continent and were causing difficulties by devouring grass that was intended for sheep to consume and managing to out-eat them. They were also consuming saplings, preventing them from growing into adult trees, and presenting major challenges to the forestry sector. Before long, the rabbit population of Australia was in the billions, and they appeared unstoppable. Even the fences erected in haste to prevent their continued migration were unable to do so. It's a problem that Australia is struggling with to this day. But back in the 1860s, if someone wanted to import animals for a new business venture, there was nothing to prevent it. That's what happened with a Frenchman called Etienne Trouvelot, who introduced the gypsy moth from Europe to the United States, in the hope that the silk produced by the worm could be used for the manufacture of clothing. Well, of course it couldn't. But what it could do, and did, was escape from captivity, and before long it had settled throughout the northeast of the United States. A small mercy is that the male of the species is the only one to fly, which has of course slowed its spread, as the female cannot. Even so, the impact has been devastating, with the destruction caused by this moth alone costing some $3 billion a year across North America. This just illustrates the huge problems that invasive species can present. Nowadays, this is well known, but that wasn't the case in the past. In those days, there was a great deal of interest in the idea of acclimatization. The idea that you could benefit the ecology of one region by introducing variety in the form of species from another region. An example of this principle was demonstrated in 1890 by a German immigrant to America called Eugene Schieffelin. He was a great admirer of Shakespeare and came up with a scheme to release every single bird species that featured in the great writer's plays. So, for example, he freed a group of 60 starlings in New York's Central Park. With no natural predators, Schieffelin's introductions thrived and had soon spread right across North America, where they would often descend on orchards and eat everything in sight. Now, for an example of an invasive plant species introduced from Europe to the so-called New World, we can consider gorse, which is an evergreen shrub with needle-like leaves. These prevent it from being eaten by grazing animals. Because of these properties, 19th century settlers figured it would be ideal for hedges, and to this end they shipped some out to New Zealand. What they didn't envisage, of course, was the way it would just spread out of control, invading pastureland and altering habitats for native wildlife. Setting fire to the stuff didn't have the desired effect of destroying it, as fresh seedlings just rose from the ashes. So, if anything, this attempted solution actually just made things worse. So, now I'd like to turn...
That is the end of part 4. You now have some time to check your answers.
Cha hiểu nói cái gì nhỉ? It's a bush hedge. Hàng rào. Hedges thì sao? Destroy many. Park.
That is the end of the test.
Destroy. Nhớ hủy hoại. Acclamation. Adaptation. Adapt to. Ok. Chả nhớ gì nữa. Monday. Let's do the first one. Đấy, at 9 a.m. Vậy nào. Thế thì phải là Monday morning, chứ phải morning Monday. Ok. 3 rồi. Cái này không nghe được. Ok. Ở đây không phải. Ngoài bird nè. Every kind of bird. Không phải gọi S gì á. Ôi dồi, không biết cái này là gì luôn. Benefits. Vườn cây. Orchard. À. Điểm. Một tiếng này. Rồi, đây. Random. Một này là gì nhỉ? Ok, bắt đầu nào. Thời gian ở đâu ta? Không có time à? In the real it's reading, but there is no time limit. First discovered in Ethiopia. Coffee cherry. Cherry đâu, nhìn mát chả thấy cherry. Coffee cherry. Đây. Wet milled are left to ferment pure water. Bring their post in. Rest covered in pure rainwater. Left overnight. Ferment the wet beans or sun dries for 2 under 2 parchment. They are sun dried to make parchment, and then dry and or then roasted to green bean. Roasted to đúng nhỉ, không biết luôn. Đúng rồi. 2, 3, 4 finish. làm nốt bài. Mình sẽ luyện những câu mà mình chưa luyện.
Is there a difference between where you meet friends now and where you used to meet them in the past?
Where'd you meet? Okay. Yes, absolutely. My friends and I used to meet at school because that is the place where we study together. Nowadays, as we drift apart due to our own works and schedule, we tend to gather only at the weekends in some random coffee shop. Yes, absolutely. My friends and I used to meet at school. Yes, absolutely. My friends and I used to meet at school because it's the place where we studied together. Nowadays, as we drifted apart due to our work and schedules, we tend to gather only at the weekends in some random coffee shops. Yes, absolutely. My friends and I used to meet at school because it is the place where we studied together. Now, yes, absolutely. We used to meet at school where we studied together. Nowadays, as we drift apart due to our working schedules and responsibilities as a grown up, we tend to gather only on weekends at some random coffee shops so as to catch up with each other's life. Yes, absolutely. We used to meet at school where we studied together.
Would you invite friends to your home? Do you often buy books?
Absolutely. I often buy books, especially fictions and literature books. These books helps me gain knowledge of uh, of the world around me, and it's developed my creativities and imagination. As for literature books, they are the textbooks of my main course at school, so I had to buy them. Absolutely. I often buy books, especially fictions, and absolutely, I often buy books, especially fiction and fan fiction. These books helps me gain a wealth of knowledge about the world around me and develop my imaginations about a different world beside this real world. As for fan fiction, uh, I am a fan of Naruto, so I tend to buy all of the Naruto's fan fictions so that so as to satisfy my urge designs for this film. Absolutely, I often buy books, especially fiction and fan fiction. These books helps me.
Which do you prefer, reading books or what? When you were a kid, did you usually sit on the floor?
When I were a kid, when I was a toddler, I usually sat on the floor because I thought that the floor was my playground. My father bought all of these slide and swings toys for me and put them on the ground so that I can play with them with to my to the ultimate of my heart. And I remembered I used to love sitting on the floor thanks to the coolness of the texture. When I was a toddler, I usually sat on the floor because I thought that when I was a toddler, I used to sit on the floor because the texture of the floor was smooth and the feel was cool. Also, my father bought all of these toys scattering around the floor, which attracts my interest, cure my interest, and I remembered I spent most of my childhood on the floor to play with those toys. When I was a toddler, I used to sit on the floor because the texture of the floor was smooth. When I was a toddler, I used to sit on the floor because the texture was smooth and the feel was cool. Also, my father bought all of these toys scattering around the floor, which captured my interest, and I remember spending most of my childhood to play with those toys on the floor. When I was a toddler, I used to sit on the floor because the texture was smooth and the
Do you wear a watch?
Yes, absolutely. I wear a watch whenever I attend a special occasions. For example, my grandparents' birthdays or my school's proms. The watch helps me express my personal style and show my confidence in front of others. Yes, absolutely. I wear a watch whenever I attend. Yes, absolutely. I wear a watch whenever I attend a special occasion. For example, my parents' birthday or my school's prom. The watch helps me express my personal style and shows my fashion taste. Also boost my confidence in front of others. Yes, absolutely. I wear a watch whenever I attend a special occasion. For example, my parents keep track of time. Yes, absolutely. I wear a watch whenever I attend a special occasion, such as my parents' birthday or my school prom. It helps me keep track of time, express my personal style, and boost my confidence in front of others. Yes, absolutely. I wear a watch whenever I attend a special occasion, such as my parents' birthday or my school prom. It helps me keep track of time, express my personal style, and boost my confidence in front of others. Lost.
Do you report to the police when finding something lost by others? Why?
Rồi thế thôi, chuẩn bị đi thi rồi. Part 2 is writing.
Describe a person who you regularly follow on social media.
Let me take a moment to describe a person that I usually follow on social media. His name is Mike. His He is a famous digital creators online with hundreds of short, interesting animated clips posted on Facebook. I remembered the first time I met him was when I was browsing some cat pictures online, and one of his videos captured my interest as he used a lot of unique special effects that engaged me. In our videos, he posted a cute little cat that jumped up and down like a silly kangaroos, and then suddenly he put a buckles of water over his whole body. It was really ridiculous clips, but it was really viral thanks to the collaborators and the special effects. The reason why I followed him is because I want to learn about I want to learn how to make videos just like him. Like his videos is short but has the viral element which can capture the interest of the audience. Let me take a moment to describe a person that I usually follow on social media. His name is Mike. He is a famous digital. Let me take a moment to describe the person that I usually follow on social media. His name is Mike. He's a famous digital creators online with hundreds of short, interesting animated clips posted on Facebook. The first time I met him was when I was browsing some cat's picture online, and one of his videos captured my interest as he used a lot of unique special effects that engaged me in a video. I remembered in that video he posted a cute little cat that jumped up and down like a silly kangaroo. Then suddenly a bucket of water fell on that cat, making the whole cat's body wet. It was nothing special, just a cat but the visual effects is what make it viral. The reason why I followed him is because I want to learn more about how to make short videos but hilarious. Because I want to learn about how to make short yet hilarious videos just like him. He includes the viral element in that video, which I want to learn from. Let me take a moment to describe the person that I usually follow on social media. His name is Mike. He's a famous digital creators online with hundreds of short, interesting animated clips posted on Facebook. The first Let me take a moment to describe a person that I usually follow on social media. His name is Mike. He is a famous digital creator with hundreds of short, interesting animated clips posted on Facebook. The first time I met him was when I was browsing some cat pictures online. One of his videos captured my interest as he used a lot of unique special effects that engaged me in the video. In that video, there was a cute little cat that jumped up and down like a silly kangaroo. Then suddenly a bucket of water fell on top of that cat, making the whole body wet. That's what's all about the videos, but what's special about it was the visual effects that he added to make the cat pop and everything looks out of this world. Okay. The reason why I followed him is because I want to learn how to make such interesting visual effects like him. I was impressed by his short yet hilarious videos. Let me take a moment to describe a person that I usually follow on social media. His name is Mike. He is a famous digital creator with hundreds of short, interesting animated clips posted on Facebook.
How are people punished when parking at a wrong spot?
When parking at the wrong spot, people can be imposed a hefty fine, which can range from 1 million VND to 2 million VND. When parking at the wrong spot, people can be when parking at a wrong spot, people can be imposed a hefty fine, which can range from 1 million VND to 2 million VND, based on the kind of vehicles. If that is a motorbike, then the fine is under 1 million. But if that is a car or a truck, the fines can be more than 2 million VND. When parking at a wrong spot, people can be imposed a hefty fine, which can range from 1 million VND to 2 million VND. When parking at a wrong spot, people can be imposed a hefty fine, which can range from 1 million VND to 2 million VND, based on the kind of vehicles. If that is a motorbike, then the fine is under 1 million, but if that is a car or a truck, the fines can be more than 2 billion millions. When parking at the wrong spots, people can be imposed a hefty fine, which can range from 1 million VND to 2 million VND, based on the kind of vehicles.
What influences the way people dress in today's society?
things that influence the first factor that influences the way people dress in today's societies is their family member opinion. Usually people usually the moms is the one to influence the way their children's clothing. Apart from that, the family's style can also influence how a person dress. For example, if that family have a tendency toward traditional clothes, then that person tends to wear traditional clothes as well. The first factor that influences the way people dress in today's societies is their family member opinion. The first factor that influences the way people dress in today's societies is their family members' opinion. Usually the moms are the ones who influence the way their children dress. Apart from that, the family style can also have an impact on someone's dress, on someone's clothing. For example, if that family style is traditional, then that person tends to wear long-sleeved clothes with traditional patterns. The first factor that influences the way people dress in today's societies is their family members' opinion. Usually, the first factors that influence the person dress in today's societies is their family members' opinion. Usually, the moms are the ones who have the most powerful impacts on the way their children dress. Apart from that, the family style can also have an impact on someone's clothing. For example, if the family style is traditional, then the person tends to wear long-sleeved clothes with traditional details and patterns. The first factors that influence the person dress in today's societies is their family members' opinion. Usually the moms are the ones who have the most powerful impacts on the way their children clothing choice. Right thing. Viết nhanh còn đi ngủ cái mệt quá. Bia đồ tràn. Timber này là cái gì? Timber này là production. Percentage of forests and their timber production. Có ngày, tức là viết hiện tại rồi hiện tại không còn năm 1 phút rồi. Nhất đúng không? Ôi, trái ngược nhau thế nào nhỉ? Spectrum. Percentage of forests. sir. kiểu gì? đoạn 2 này viết chán quá, đọc chả hiểu gì. Không liên quan chủ đề lắm. Ôi ngủ quá. Khỏi 30 phút chả biết có được thời gian ngủ.